Good evening, welcome to the December 12th meeting of the Board of Health. We are being recorded by WACA-TV and also by our secretary. If anyone else is recording, please let us know. If not, we'll proceed. Citizen participation is the first thing on here, and I don't know if we have anybody for that. Okay. Bagel table request,
Table.
Mark?
Yeah, it's hard to say that all at once, isn't
I know.
it? Bagel table.
Bagel table.
Bagel table, the reps are here. I don't know who would like to, they can come to the front of the table if you so wish, Madam Chair. You guys can move right up. Do those chairs move?
Yeah, Mike will swing around.
Additional exercise.
Stand and give it to them.
We can share,
We can take it off.
that'll work.
Oh, is that right?
we'll share this one.
Okay.
Fine.
Allison, if you do need that mic, let us know. We'll point it down. We'll have Steve talk up. But you have a representative for the group as well.
Well, it's,
How do you want to
I
announce
just
yourself?
helped fill out some of the forms, but the applicant is,
You have Ed's the
Ed,
owner of
who,
Bagel Table.
proposing the bagel table, and I think
Ben
folks,
Stevens
you know,
owns
Ben
the building.
Stevens, the developer, the owner of the building. So, if I could, I'd maybe let Ed explain what his,
Sure.
use of the property is, and I think you guys have a plan and maybe a list of equipment, as part of your package, I hope.
So we've been selling bagels at the Ashland Farmers Market for 3 years now, and it's been a great success. And a number of people have come to us and said, "You should open a store in Ashland. You should open a store in Ashland." Over the last couple of years, and finally, after meeting Steve, we've decided to open a store in Ashland. And Steve has introduced me to Ben. So here we are tonight to talk about the Bagel Table, which is going to be a store at 21 Main Street. It's going to be a limited production facility. So we have a wholesale bagel operation in Waltham, Massachusetts, where all the bagels are produced. The bagels will be delivered fresh every morning. The only actual food production will be finishing the bagel with cream cheese, with sausage, bacon, eggs. We're not going to do traditional sandwiches. The only preparation of food on the premises will be slicing tomatoes, onions. So we will have a food prep sink, which you can see on the plan, to satisfy that requirement. Everything else will come either par-cooked or pre-cooked, and we will just assemble and sell. We will have a complete assortment of coffees, traditional coffee, espresso, cappuccino. The layout also shows that we provided for a sink adjacent to the coffee station to support the cappuccino and espresso machine. And we're going to have a seating for approximately 14 to 16, with the concept of the Bagel Table being a large community table so people can come sit, enjoy coffee, have a bagel, and a nice place in downtown Ashland to have a cup of coffee. I have some bakery experience that goes way back in Ashland. For those of you that might remember a place called Mahitables, which was a bakery in the back of the news store,
Absolutely.
I helped Frankie set that up.
They
Wow.
made the greatest
I'll be darned.
whole wheat bread.
Yeah, that was bread that I helped Frankie put together. The whole wheat bread, the chocolate chip cookies, where I helped Frankie put all that together when it was called Mahitables. So our long-term plan, if you notice also, is there's a section for a proposed bakery case down the road. So as it grows, we would like to incorporate some bakery as well.
I think it's important to mention that the purpose of the meeting is for a waiver on the,
Yeah, the grease trap.
fees trust.
So there's, like you said, so it's just fresh every day, onions,
Every day,
tomatoes.
7 days a week, the bakery will be delivered.
So there's gonna be absolutely no grease.
No
grease ever,
grease,
right?
No grease at all. It'll be cleaning the utensils that either process the tomatoes, onions, and cleaning the actual utensils that we use to pack the product. Everything is going to be packed in disposable. There are no dishes, there are no forks or knives. We've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort in creating a nice look. This is the actual kind of logo, if you will. These are the coffee sleeves that'll be going on the disposable coffee cups. So,
They styrofoam or cardboard?
cardboard. Everything is gonna be made from recycled paper. All our bags are gonna be from recycled paper,
Good.
made by a company called Durapack.
Not that this board has effect on it, but I mean, what are your hours?
Our hours are planned to be from 7 to 3, possibly a little bit later based on the coffee experience. If you notice the whole layout, it's all customer facing.
Nice.
It's about dealing with the customer, serving the customer, and making it a community center for the people to come and enjoy a cup of coffee. And the concept is not to turn your back on the customer. Even the people in the back that'll be preparing the bagels behind the
facing front.
half wall will be facing the customer as they prepare the bagels.
When do you hope to open?
We're probably looking at sometime in March, I think, by the time we
Nice.
get construction done, maybe late February, but I would say March would be probably a good timeline for us.
Well, Mark, the only question I would have is, we typically give these grease trap waivers with a time period.
Yes, and so, as the board knows, this is a process that includes both the plumbing inspector as well as the Department of Public Works, Water and Sewer Division. And the persons I spoke with were Chuck DeBrich as well as Dan Murrah and Roy Correa. Dan Murrah is the new DPW Water and Sewer Commissioner. Roy Correa is still there as the Assistant Commissioner to the DPW. And they have made, all three of them, the recommendation that they be allowed the grease waiver conditional to no issues through the year, and then it will come up again at the end of each year, which the board's
Right.
doing tonight to review how the year went, as long as nothing happened in between, to require an outside grease, external grease tank. And so it's, as you go, and just so you know, in your letter, you do say that we inspect the grease internal one. That is going to be required by the plumbing inspector per plumbing codes, as well as the DPW actually inspects it.
Okay.
They come by and do the routine. This regulation was adopted with several groups involved, including management, DPW, water and sewer, as well as the plumbing inspector and Board of Health. And the reason it was prior to you coming into our town, we used to have issues with cloggage in our sewer pipes, and so we resolved it by adopting regulations that were actually being used by other MWRA communities and other communities more towards Boston. And that was a good 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
So, in a couple other notes, Ed and I, as he said, I didn't know you were involved with Mahitables, but he's been involved with the farmers market with a good record for being aware of food codes and so forth. He has applied for his food permit for next year. There'll be a few phases involved as it relates to construction inspections, to the end, to the grand opening inspection, so that's involved. There's occupancy also, I think Ben's here for that, and that will involve not just the building department, but federal and state agencies to make sure everything is resolved with any concerns they may have, and there is an email in there for your review. But tonight, as Steve said, we're here basically to get through the request for the external grease trap waiver, basically for tonight.
I'll make a motion that we waive the request for a grease trap for Bagel Table from January 1 of 2018 through December 31st of 2018, and we'll review it at the end of the year, next year,
And
like we do with all of
just
our other ones.
The only word I would ask to be put in that, John, is external.
External, yep,
Because they're gonna be
external.
required to have the internal.
Okay. For the external,
Any other discussion? All in favor?
aye.
3-0, you all set?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Best of luck with everything.
Yeah,
Thank
sounds
you.
great.
We,
Sounds
look
great,
forward to
congratulations.
Forward to being
enjoying-
here.
Yeah.
Keep in touch, Ed. I will, even from the start of construction. Tom and I, the inspector and I, the food inspector, will be involved with you through all the process.
Actually, I'll see you next week, because I have to do those farm market permits for next year.
Oh,
because
there
we're
you
gonna do
go.
the February market.
Oh, good, so you'll be doing that as
Good
well as
luck,
the
guys.
summer too?
Thank you very much. Yeah, great. Thank you.
This is great,
Yeah,
exciting.
Good luck.
Bye. Thank you.
Oh, we're a little ahead.
I saw the person from Marathon Mobile peek in, the owner. I don't know if he's ready to meet with the board, but if he is, we do have paperwork in front of the board, Madam Chair, for Marathon Mobile.
Is this the second one in less than,
There's a chart I have here if you want. This is the third one in 3 years. What happened
Yeah.
was, come on in, David. What we have is a chart. I
Hey,
don't
how
know
are
if
you?
Did you get these? No. No, that's okay, and I can share this chart with everyone,
Just sign in, please.
and I'll circle the side. Oh, no, wrong one. I was gonna say, that doesn't make sense. So basically, if the board wants, I'll let them get settled in, but I can give you an answer to that, John, if that's okay. Okay, so starting on, let me go across, starting on November 25th, well, they had a sale on November 25th of 2017. There was a sale on July 30th of 2015, and a sale on March 21st of 2015, to answer your question. So if this was March 21st, 2018, and the sale was March 19th of 2018, they'd be starting a new
right,
3-year period. And I'd have to look to see, but I think it says within 3 years, so
it
whenever
does.
the initial sale occurred. Yeah, if you want, you can look at it, and we can make it part of the record, because now it's being passed out. So we'll have to add that to the minutes.
This is where it started.
Which, that's a great chart to have. We got a compliment on that chart today. Someone was looking
It is a
at
good chart.
and It's a good chart to have, just to
It
get a
is.
snapshot of everything. So, and
So that's just 3 violate. How many total, just interesting, do you have figures for how many total packs of cigarettes are sold versus how many violations there are?
we basically don't have that, but that'd be interesting. We have to ask each vendor
Yeah.
what's their volume per year,
Right, yeah.
per month. It
Not
could
that
be
it's great, but that's
fluctuate, it could
still-
fluctuate.
Yeah,
And
it
only a
jumps right
few.
out at you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
John,
and-
did you?
Yes, yeah, that's it.
Ron, just to answer that too, just so you know, and I talked to Ellie because he was doing a regional inspection in this case. Elliot Taylor, Elliot Brown, I don't know Elliot Taylor, that's why I always confuse the two. Elliot Brown, basically works for our region now, Regional 5 communities. And he also, Elliot Brown's our tobacco control agent, works for us individually. He now helps out the region. So this inspection was part of a regional inspection, comprehensive inspection, but we do 3 others a year as well through the funding we get for our tobacco fees. And then Elliot goes out as well and does review of tobacco inspections, signage, are they minimum pricing. So we have a very comprehensive program. I don't know if Elliot can be here tonight. We were hoping he could be. If he's not, he may be on his way, and it's a shame if he does get here, but what time is it? So,
20
he
after
should-
7.
what we could do is discuss it with the applicant, but maybe see if he shows up. It's tough out there. I even had tough driving with the wet roads, but
The fog.
unless the board wants to hold off, because he was planning to be
Well,
here.
we'll go past 7:30, so I think we can.
Just so
yeah.
if he wants to be here, I think it'd only be fair. I apologize, but I was trying to move it along, but we can do other business, Madam
Don't
Chair,
look
if
so
you so
scared,
wish.
we don't bite.
No, we won't fight.
Dave loves us.
No, but we can talk
love
about it,
Dave.
and then he can add,
Yeah.
if you want.
Or do we want to wait for Elliot, or it's up to the board?
Well, do we know he's coming? Or are we waiting
He
for a
was
bus?
planning to.
Yeah.
He was planning to.
No, but we could open we could
We
open,
can open the discussion.
Yeah.
Sure.
only 10 minutes. Does he know it's here, not at town hall?
That's what we're hoping he knows. We told him last week, but again, he may have,
Okay.
and, right? Well, yeah, so, yeah, so that,
Yeah.
since I can tell the owner of the property, but you got the information here too with the, thanks to Laura, she got a great package together for tonight's meeting, as she always
Laura's
does.
terrific.
Oh, don't give her too much credit now.
No,
Oh, she is. She does very,
You'd be
very
lost
good.
without her.
I
Yep.
sure would. I told
No
her if
truer
I-
words gonna be spoken
when
this
I go
evening
on my
after that.
leaves and stuff and vacations, I wish I could have shared outside work boots with her to work, to do some of the work I do out there. We'll have to get her trained down the road maybe. Just the union don't let them go out the door, and that's the problem. It's not your fault.
maybe,
Oh,
would
just
you
so,
like to explain to
yeah,
us?
well, just so the board knows, you'll see the fine that was issued as well, and that's all in the code. So the code says if you have a first, second, or third violation, even a fourth, automatically you get a fine for $300. That has been paid. So that, under section, just so you know, do you have the codes there?
Yeah,
Page 11P, violations,
yeah,
actually page 12,
Yeah,
you
that's a
see
good
C,
idea.
we're in the section C of that part, it's
Right.
1C, because now we're in the 3 or more
ours
violations.
is all highlighted.
Oh, you're just too good. So thank you, Laura. And like I said, you put a good package together. So we're at the point where I'll read it if the board so wishes. And that way, the audience, if
Yeah,
the
and
listening audience, as well as the people in our audience, know, it's in the case of 3 or more violations within a 36-month period, a fine of $300 and tobacco product sales permit shall be suspended for up to 60 consecutive business days unless sufficient cause is provided to the Board of Health during a hearing. So this would be the hearing that we invited them to. We actually invite them all to our meetings, but I presume the owner has would be discussing with the board maybe some ideas and options to the board, and the board, can make their decision based on that, because it's up to, so you're not required to go there. I'm not trying to suggest one way or the other. I'm
Right.
just suggesting that you have some leeway within the regulation.
You want to bring your chair up and talk to us?
Excuse me, can I,
Yeah,
just
go
ask, just a procedural question, just for those of us such as me who are new and don't really know?
That's why I'm
Are
trying to go
these-
through these.
Is this, intentional, meaning there's a tobacco control board that has a young adult under the legal age
Yep.
enter and try to purchase, that's what all,
That's
so
how
it's just a random
That's what
thing that
everyone does.
happens?
Comprehensive inspection, we call them, and exactly, they're trained youth to go in. They're not to be looking like an older person.
Right.
They go in, they're trained to do a procedure, not to go past that procedure, and that is to go in without a license in most cases.
Yep.
I don't know of any that have had a license to present, and then this process starts. They ask for a brand of cigarettes, sometimes electronic cigarettes, and if the person doesn't ask for ID and offers to sell it, then that's obviously a violation. Every situation is a little bit different, but that's what happens. We have 18 tobacco permits in our town, and so this round was a good round. We only had this one. Other towns are not, always doing as well as we do, but again, this board, over the years, and the board can speak for themselves, the other 2 members, but they take a very serious approach to tobacco sales to minors, and so we probably do have more comprehensive inspections than other towns, but it seems to have kept our numbers down. We've been doing these for several years, and the Board of Health here has been in the frontier area of tobacco control, from the point of vending machines to the point of environmental tobacco smoke. This town has been one of the first towns in many of those areas to create regulations and move forward with the approach that needs to be
We
taken
were
to
like
make
second
sure.
in the state to go to 21, I
Yeah,
believe.
and we were one of the first to eliminate vending machines. We were second in, I think, even ETS regulations in various areas. So I'm very proud to say that I'm glad to be working for this board who takes a serious approach to this matter.
Sure. Come on up.
Yeah, and then you may want to announce yourself. Yeah, so, and then what I would suggest, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, is maybe the owner can announce who he has here as his guest.
Absolutely. So my name's Dave, the president of Maryland Local. So one of my employees, Joe Marcy.
Joe.
He's the one who sold the cigarettes, and that's his mom.
I'm his mom. And by the way, congratulations. I think that your work with the tobacco is excellent, and I'm very proud of that. And Mark, you had a very interesting point in that you said that you have these trained individuals.
You'll have to go through, just for process,
Oh, I'm
just,
sorry.
we're a
That's all
small
right.
The
group
board,
here, but
okay.
just, you go through the chair, and I'm sure she'll
Oh,
say,
I'm
answer
sorry,
the
Mary.
question.
Mary.
That's all
But Mark had made the comment, and that's why I was
Exactly.
addressing
Yeah, no,
the
that's
comment to
fine.
you, which was that you had trained individuals that come into these places, and they're trained to do a job. And so my question to you is, because Joe's a teenager and he's working in an adult situation, and I'm sure that there's a lot of teenagers out there that are working in stores and other places, and they're selling tobacco products. And so my question is, has there been any training for those kids? Is there any education for them to know the seriousness and the impact of their lapse of reasoning or their decision? Because it sounds like the people that, I mean, you've trained the staff to come in and try and do this sting, but like, have you let the kids know how serious that is?
That is a responsibility of the owner, as Dave knows, and we have had training through the region as well, and we actually are trying, it's difficult, but we try to get into the schools as a region as well. Our program is very small. Basically, it's one person part-time, 4 times a year. So, but the region has come in for the education. Now, as it relates to the education of the staff, the Board of Health, even previous to this, in their regulations, had that the staff had to read the regulations that we have in place, state that they understood them as well.
Yeah.
We had to sign for them.
And they had a
Yeah.
sign that they
And I get
understood
that.
them, and that's
But
so we can make
but
sure
we're
they're
also,
being
we're
trained.
talking with, like, dealing with teenagers who their entire frontal lobe is not even well developed, and so I guess what I'm saying is, you know, rather than seeing a sting operation and trying to like get these kids, you know,
That's not
maybe
the intent, though.
That's
It's
not
not
the
the
intent,
intent.
though.
I know, it's to make sure that nobody's, you know, I get it, but maybe that there's some sort of, you know, if you're working in a situation where you are selling tobacco products, maybe there's some sort of mandatory training thing that these kids have to go to, so that they realize the seriousness of what they're doing and how it impacts them and their owners. I mean, I think a lot
agree.
of kids probably don't even realize it, and so
What
that's
I-
what I
if
struggle with.
Discussion
Yeah.
Yeah.
not too long ago, and I told him, I said, as a, you know, I'd be willing, you know, us to pay for it. All tobacco users should pay for the program, because we try. We don't wanna sell cigarettes to anybody, you know, we really don't. Unfortunately, it's part of the business. And, you know, and with the kids in my business, I hire 4 or 6 new high schoolers every year. Usually I'm their first job, you know. Do I want to stop that and try to just, because I don't have trouble with my older people, because we have thick skin. Somebody comes in for cigarettes, you know, we kick them out, we don't care. You know, they are naive in a little bit, and I'd hate to, in 22 years, like I said, that's what I do every year. I have a lot of first timers, and I hate to get rid of that. And I know, and I'm trying to find a solution. Last time we bought a scanner that has a scan IDs, but you could override it. After this time, I called XL Mobile. Now you can't override it. So it has to be scanned. So if somebody comes in with a passport, anything, we can't even sell them cigarettes now. Because before they could just override that. Now I had XL Mobile take that out. So it's either scan something, an ID that works, or even if just a mass ID doesn't scan. So we can't sell them cigarettes anymore. So that's all I'm trying to do. Is every time this happens, I try to put things in
know
effect, because I can't be there 24/7. And I get that's not an answer. I get it. But I'm always open. Like when I talk to them, I'm like, I'll be willing to pay for training for all the new employees, you know, on a regular basis. Joe will tell you, I scream at these kids before they get hired. I scream at them. I'm like, you will not sell cigarettes. You're gonna pay the fine. You know, I don't. Now, he's not gonna lose his job. He's a good kid. You know, I fight a kid before, but there was other issues, you know, than that. But Joe's one of
And
the
if
best
I could just say,
employees.
you all know this is being televised, correct? Because
Yeah.
when we had started the meeting, you weren't here. and
That's
we
why I'm
noted-
watching my language.
Well, that's why I noted it, David.
So again, the
I know
mistake was
David
made.
long time, that's why I can chat with him like this.
Yeah. And we do truly, we try, and things happen, you know, they do, and unfortunately, you know.
In the training, just so you know, we did have it. Not many people showed, and we asked more or less the violators to show up. So,
Well, I guess I'm talking like across the board. Every employee in Ashland, once a year, if you're under 20 years old, you have to go to this 1-hour mandatory.
and
thing,
there are
you know.
courses available. We don't have the resources. We're a one-person department. And as I said, we have a person that does comprehensive inspections and routine. He might be here a matter of maybe 40 hours a year. So we just don't have that capacity. Our region does to some degree, and we have had that training. When that dries up, there's not much at the state. The only thing I can recommend is there are other training programs you can pay for, like WeCard. We talked about that one. And then maybe have some in-house and see who does WeCard or another program, and ask the private side, can you come in and train? Because in some of the other instances, if I may, Madam Chair, the same concerns came up, and some of the other gas stations even were sending their people to training or having management train them and so forth. And so maybe I heard the older people have thicker skin. Is that what you just said,
Very
David,
thick
earlier?
skin. I wouldn't say
Maybe
two pack of cigarettes would have been-
maybe they could train too, because it doesn't hurt to have your staff
We've had-
train.
we've had
There's
older-
your younger staff.
We've had older people.
Oh yeah, we've had older people sell too, though.
It's not just kids.
No, I know.
But I thought that'd be a nice combination too, because
Even something like Elliot, maybe again, we could, together with the 18 of us,
we just-
an extra $100 a year or something, that's $1,800, maybe a couple times a year.
Yeah.
All we need is somebody,
The problem
with some
with-
authority
yeah.
thing that.
problem is Elliot, I don't think can offer the time. He has another job as well.
I'm just saying.
But what he does, he has to meet state standards for training the operation of the person going in, so you're not in any way being entrapped. So that's the training they get.
Right.
But we can ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, and maybe we could try locally, but usually it's a regional, and we did do it regionally, had 2 sessions, minimal
Would,
attendance.
Attorney Sabrilla know of anyone that?
We could look into it, probably be something where, again, it'd probably be the industry that could handle it better, and management better than anyone, direct management that they fall under. But we can look.
Yeah.
Something that,
I'm not trying to pass the
train
buck,
the,
it's just something-
no, train the trainer. We could look at train the trainer. We could train you and you train them.
Mary, can I weigh in?
Yes, John.
It's certainly not an indication on Joe. I mean, couldn't come from a nicer family, more responsible
Thanks, John.
family. No, I mean, it's the truth. I mean, you guys are a gem to the community of Ashland, and I know you're a good kid from just, up at school and everything. You just got into college, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's, unfortunately, it's all your fault.
No,
You know?
It is. It
No,
always is.
no,
It's
but-
his fault.
but
He accepts
No.
responsibility.
No, but
It's his
at the
fault.
end of the day, it's the business owner, and
Yeah.
that's why it's difficult for us to sit here from a guy who's done tremendous amount of good things in this community as well. And I mean, we could go on all night long about, how great of a community member you are. But at the end of the day, this town and this board has a zero tolerance for this. So I mean, I hate to be the heavy, but I'm often him in these types of things it's the owner's fault.
Right.
It's, and if maybe yelling isn't the way to do it. Maybe it's,
Oh, I see, yeah.
yeah, I know, and I'm just trying to have a friendly
Right.
conversation. Is that this is the 3rd time, 3 years.
It's always a new kid. But
I know, and I to the same situation that I want for you is, one, because you do so much good things for this community, is that I want to see you to be successful. At the same time, we still have to hold you accountable. You say it's always a new kid, right? I mean, so is that the
because
trend?
they're only here a year or so.
Right, is that the trend? But if you
Oh, yeah.
if you have
Every
a
time.
zero and this is where I get confused,
Yeah.
and I know it's tough because I was a teenage kid and I always want to help out and but I guess if you truly have a zero tolerance for selling, and not just you, it's any business owner in Ashland has a zero tolerance for selling tobacco.
Right.
How does it happen? And I guess that's the piece that I
Let's
don't.
ask the gentleman who did
But
it.
I would love to.
Because
I'd
that's
love
what you
to.
need to hear from,
Yeah.
not from me.
No, and I think this is a great conversation.
Yeah.
And one, how mature of you to come here and,
Yeah,
do
of
this, so
course.
thank
Absolutely.
you. So thank
Yeah.
you, kudos
And
to
he
you,
offered,
yeah.
and he said he's gonna get all dressed up nice.
Yeah,
No.
and I was gonna say, and get dressed up, absolutely.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
very
full
nicely
aware
dressed.
that selling cigarettes to underage kids, it can tear a community apart, even a great community like Ashland. And I honestly take full responsibility. It's completely my fault. Obviously, I wasn't thinking when it happened, and there, I know you guys have no excuses, so I don't have an excuse. It's completely my fault.
Can you just kind of explain what happened? Were you busy? Did you
Yeah,
think
so-
you know the kid? Did you
No, I had no idea who it was, but it was over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, and it was a lot busier than usual that morning. So I had a packed store, and my coworker was coming in, getting ready for a shift change. So I was just trying to get as many customers out of there as possible before I could, swap drawers and, help my other coworker out.
So you just got frantic and you just didn't
Yeah,
get that.
exactly.
You,
I
and you didn't
panicked.
ask for the ID?
What?
You didn't ask for the ID?
No, I panicked.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your honesty.
If I may, in that day, in that busy period, did you ask anyone else for IDs?
Yeah, yeah.
It was just this one instant?
Just one instant, yeah. Just because I was trying to help my coworker out who's coming in for the shift change,
It
and
was
I
a
wanted
shift change, okay, so that's where things were moving, you were trying to move things quick.
Exactly, yeah.
That's something management should be listening to, maybe there should be some changes with that and
But
how
like I
it's
said,
done.
there's no override anymore, so unless that ID gets scanned from this point on,
But
And
I,
you put that in place since this,
yeah, that day.
Yeah.
So that day,
On that
so
day,
like I
okay.
said, unless you have an ID that actually can be read by the scan, you could have a valid ID. If it doesn't scan, they can't sell you cigarettes. They can't override it anymore. They just can't do
so,
it.
it wasn't intimidation or anything like that, because
No.
we've heard that before too, it was timing, busyness.
Yeah, sometimes, well, people that are actually old enough, yeah, they give them a hard time. Actually, was it you or Mike
did say that.
who was in there one time?
I was in there when a guy
Oh,
said,
they
I gotta
don't
go
like
back
it,
out
you
into
know,
my
and again,
truck,
for
and
someone
then
like us
left.
who's seasoned, you could get upset as you want, it's not gonna work. You know, again,
But it would
I'm trying to
happen,
find a happy medium here where I can keep these young kids on a
well,
regular
I
basis.
think lessons learned are always, I'm glad, John, you asked him,
Right.
because you just heard a couple points that he made, that the store gets busy.
Yeah.
You might have to work on scheduling, like when you know there's a big event in town. Maybe there's need for more time for a turnaround for him and the person coming in to take over. I
Again,
mean, those are management issues that
Yeah.
could have maybe helped.
I think, again, I don't know what, every time something happens, we find a new way to deter it.
Right.
Last time was I bought the ID
And
reader.
that's good. No, it's
Now we can't override it.
So-
So as of this point, I don't know, besides like training or constant,
That's a
you
good
know,
solution too.
yeah,
It's not
reassurances.
underestimated by no means. I wrote it down.
but if I
training.
came in tonight to
Yep.
buy a pack of cigarettes in your
Yep.
store,
Yes.
and I didn't have my ID, would I be able to get a pack of
Couldn't
cigarettes?
sell it. I couldn't do anything.
You
And
couldn't.
that,
Yeah,
and
the-
that's
the-
since,
the
and
cash
that's
register-
since this happened.
I've had that happen before ever
Yeah,
since it's been
so as of
closed.
now,
Okay.
that cash
Well,
register
that's
will
progress, I
not
think.
allow it.
Yes,
They won't
okay.
allow it right now anymore,
Okay.
and that's it. And when I called ExxonMobil,
Even though I'm well past 21.
but it doesn't matter at this point now.
Right.
So anyways, yeah, so when I called ExxonMobil, they're like, are you sure you want to get rid of the override? I'm like, yes, get rid of it. So like, I can't change it, they have to change it. So I couldn't even go in there later and change it. I'd actually physically call them.
What was their concern about you not having the override versus giving it up?
There was none. So
ExxonMobil.
when I put the scanner in the second time we got caught, you know.
No, but what was Exxon? You said ExxonMobil said, "Are you sure you want to get rid of this
Yeah, because
override?"
most people like the override. For
Why
the
do
reason
they
if
like
you have
it?
a passport, we're allowed to sell you cigarettes. I can't
see.
do that anymore.
Oh, it's in case some other ID.
Yeah, so it's really as strict as I think as I can get unless something else comes up.
So you wouldn't accept a military ID?
I
or-
can't. If
you
it doesn't
can't?
scan,
Not even like a regular
There's nothing you
identification
can do.
card. It has to be a driver's
Does it
license.
take out-of-state driver's license?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it does.
It
Yeah.
does, okay. Okay, no, I mean, but I think
curious.
this is huge progress.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's huge progress, and I kudos to you
The
for doing it.
fact that there's no override
It's
is
all right.
great.
No, and David's worked with me on this.
Yeah.
I'm just, we're all trying to find solutions
I
to
know
this.
we
We
are.
don't.
I know.
Unfortunately, you're sitting in this seat, but we're all trying to find solutions at the same time.
Do you have a recommendation, Mark, for, I mean, I know there's a fine.
Well, Dave and I talked, and we had some discussions on this. He's concerned, as he should be,
Absolutely.
And some of the ideas were, look at maybe, and it's up to him though. And I told him, you have to present, but look at potential for maybe a 4-year period without any further sales with go back to what would happen in a 2-week sale, 2 sales in 3 years, and then go no more than 3 and 4 as a compromise, where if you did that, you'd have 14 consecutive business days without sale versus 60. That's
Yeah,
a big
6
difference.
weeks.
2 weeks versus 5 weeks is a big difference.
And what is the percentage of your tobacco sales and your
There's-
income?
So we sell about 20 cartons a week. So I think that's a low volume store, to be honest with you. Some of them do like 100 cartons a week, which would be awesome.
No, you're talking to the wrong people here.
And maybe for
But
David
it-
But it is a chuckle moment. It's a chuckle moment, but
I don't smoke.
I don't think they appreciate it.
Yeah, so it's not a big sale. And like I said, we really could care less because our biggest concern is the garage, and it is part of our business over there. it's everything, you know. Yeah, the ice cream is great.
Yeah, it's great.
Would you even consider not selling? I mean, if it's not pie, I'm just
So,
curious.
and honestly, Mike, I think of that a lot, and I would. The problem is, because we're a convenience store, and obviously I have to compete with, you know, people come to me not just for the cigarettes.
Right.
Today's, the reason why we even did the new store, I don't know if you guys have been in there or not,
Yeah.
and all these gas stations are getting bigger and bigger, it's all about one-stop shop.
Yeah.
So you have the tobacco, you know, you got the lottery, you got the alcohol that I'd like to apply for today.
Yeah, wrong poet again.
So, you know, they come for gas and
Yeah.
snacks and drinks and food. It's really the whole thing. So taking out the cigarettes, it would hurt a lot, you know. But how's that helping if one place stops? They're just gonna go down the street or Hopkinton or something like that. So
Well, we don't wanna hurt your
yeah,
business.
No,
I
that wasn't,
understand that. I
that
understand
wasn't
that.
the question, but we've had like,
honestly, if cigarettes were outlawed, I'm perfectly fine with that. Because like I said, it's all about being on the even playing field. You know, that's all it is.
and they're not outlawed, you know.
But no, I probably should be. But so, anyways, yeah. But no, if it was to just stop everywhere, it'd be great. I don't have to worry about my kids and nobody. You know, they don't smoke. And speaking of teenagers, you know they don't really smoke cigarettes anymore, right? They
Right.
just smoke vapes now, which I don't sell. I don't sell vapes or.
It's a big concern, yeah.
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 I don't know if that leads into cigarette smoking or not.
Well, if it has nicotine in it, yeah, it can.
Yeah.
But the nicotine level is so low, in most of what the kids buy.
Yeah, I think in
But you're
different
starting to
levels.
see some
They
studies
do.
coming out about the cognitive, you know, that it has a different effect. It might not be bad for your lungs, but it could be bad. I mean, it's a concern. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an evolving thing.
Especially if it's flavored with
And
flavors
that's what
that,
they all go
you
at.
know, the
Right.
cherry and the
But even the
orange.
flavored ones don't have the amount of nicotine that
No, they
the
don't.
cigarettes do. I mean, they're like 4
But-
milligrams.
I don't
We
know.
would
Like I said, I don't know
still-
anything about
The
this
one
stuff.
that I get is 20 milligrams.
Oh, you say?
All right, so the $300 fine has been paid, so what we have to determine tonight is
The suspension.
Yeah.
we can go up to 60 days. Only because I'm well past 21 and my memory isn't as good as it used to be. We had a recent infraction in town, that was a third offense, did we not, in the last? Was
Yeah.
it two?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was two, okay. Yeah, it was two, okay.
And they were without,
But again, we
Another
changed the
gas station.
regulations
Right.
to be 3 years versus 2, so
Right.
we would have had a third if a business
Right.
didn't sell
Right.
out to another
another
business
business.
Yeah, it dated out.
in
yeah.
2 years, I believe, so. And then we went to 3, which is a more restrictive approach. Again, this is new to the board, you've never seen this before, because we never had a 3-year period.
right.
Well, I'll throw out a motion only to stimulate conversation, because I'm not sold to it. I would make a motion that we unfortunately suspend the tobacco license for 30 days, starting on January 1st, 2018, and restrict all tobacco from being in the store for 30 days. Only, and I want to stress this as the caveat, is that the business owner was proactive and that the system is in place that, you know, you cannot buy anything. I mean, you went and did that proactively
That day.
before you came here tonight,
Yes.
before you were penalized, so I think that you should get some kudos for that. But at the same time, that this board has to do, it has to be consistent in its policies, is that we can't treat you any different than we would treat, you know, another business. You know, that opens us up for liability issues, but, like I said, that's just my motion for stimulate conversation.
Could we do something like extend it to like a 4th year or even a higher fine? It's not that I wanna sell the cigarettes, again, it's just the customer base, so it's more than just that. It's just, you know, like customers, you know, depend on stores and stuff like that.
Milk and bread and cigarettes.
Everything, it really is, and I have no problem, so the revenue I would lose, I'd rather pay it up, you know, almost up front, and just so I don't have to tell my customers, I'm sorry, you know, you gotta go, and I get it, you know, I know it's not a good thing, but I'm willing to hope, and maybe extend it, maybe we could go a 4th year, and I'll give you my word, no violations, you can throw the book at me.
Well, because the problem becomes in the 4th year, you lose your license to sell food.
Right.
And that's non-negotiable, based on our policy and procedures. So, I mean, I'm confident in your word as your bond, and I'm confident in your system, but if you have a 4th violation, you're selling gas and fixing cars. You're not selling food, you're not selling, you know what I mean? Cause that's the fine. So, and I'm not saying that that's the way the board goes, but
Right.
that's what would
That's
happen.
potential.
Yeah, it's.
And we had that nearly happen with a business in town.
Yeah.
They had to go in and remove all the cigarettes out of the facility. And had they missed again, they would have lost their food permit, and that's about 50% of their store.
And just so you know, Dave, you lose your license to sell tobacco on the fourth violation, and anytime you sell tobacco, the board has a right to suspend all your permits. So for Board of Health issue permits for 30 days. And it goes on, so I think John brings out a very good point of how this is a, very serious regulation to address sales to minors, obviously, so.
My only thing is, I think he's gone above and beyond with the system that he's put in. And I know 60 days is our maximum, but I think 30 is a little bit too heavy for somebody who's gone the extra mile to prevent it from ever happening again. I don't
Yep.
know how you feel about that one.
No, I hate to see any business get hurt, especially, I mean, I know this kid too, he's a good kid, and, he made a mistake. I know, I don't know about you and your profession, but I know I probably make mistakes every day, or more than I'd like to admit. Most of the times we get a chance, to, we get a chance to correct them.
And those mistakes oftentimes are the threads of your life. Like, this kid will never make that mistake
Oh, absolutely.
ever again.
Right.
And that's a huge learning point, but,
No, and I just don't want to,
Yeah.
I hate to see the business get hurt, and like every business, in the town is vital to the whole of Ashland, as we go, and, I certainly don't want to make this young guy feel worse than he already feels, at least I'm sure he feels, disappointed and, in himself, toward you, his employer, and, I understand that the regulations are what they are. I just, the zero tolerance is, that's a tough thing for me. I mean, every doctor would be out of business if there was zero tolerance, because, it
all
it
make
can't
mistakes.
happen. We're all gonna make mistakes, so. And you also do a lot for the community. You give a kid, more than likely, who has never had a job, that responsibility for the first time, and there's a boatload of stuff to learn. Not
and-
just
and
about
to
the
take it one
business,
step-
but about
take it one step further,
people.
by Dave employing Joe doesn't go to Ashland High School. He goes to a private school that's 45 minutes away. And our agreement was he has to pay for his own transportation, and the only way he can afford to do that is by working, and Dave has been lucky enough to give him the hours.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he works his patootie off to earn money to pay for his school.
And the parents are appreciative too. They
Yeah.
always call me. You actually call me.
They do.
But then I always get one or two parents say, Dave, ever since he started working there, he's showing more responsibility at home. And again, it just doesn't make anything right.
No.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the whole picture, we do try. We care. We try. I don't
That's
know.
what I was.
So I would amend that to the 15th, but
I was just gonna say,
I
would
would
you-
stick to the January 1 date.
But would you consider a 2-week as opposed to, or the 15 days as opposed to the 30?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah, I would amend it, yeah. 2 weeks being 14,
Right,
yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I'm not, I mean, I don't like to do it, but yeah. Yeah, so I'll amend it to 14
I mean, we
days.
have to do something,
But
we
we
can't
have to,
just,
we have to remove it from the store, right?
Now, here's the question. Now, you're setting a precedent, so.
Yes, we are.
And you've had other people in here and we didn't vary, but then
Correct.
they
Right.
were on 2 weeks
Correct.
for their second time.
But there are some mitigating
Dave has
circumstances.
I don't disagree. The others did too, but Dave suggested he has something that will work, and that is now everything gets scanned. So I think with this, and I know the board would want to make sure, and the seriousness is understood, I believe, all around this table. But maybe, and that's where that 4-year span came in, is if you're getting less time, you have to show that you're not selling ever again in another, you could sell again, but within a 4-year period versus the 3.
I think you bring up a good point, I mean,
And that way, in this give and take there, and you promised that it shouldn't happen.
Shouldn't.
I mean, if, and once again, I don't know why I always end up as the heavy in these, but that's fine. If you're here in the next 2 years, you're not selling
Oh, I see where
food,
you're
you're
coming
not selling food or tobacco. But I'm pretty confident that we're not gonna see it in the next 2 years, but, I mean, I think that's to the fellow board members, I think,
Yeah.
we're holding them accountable, but we're also saying, hey, I mean, I've been doing these hearings for more than a decade. This is the most impressive hearing that I've
Yeah,
seen,
that's-
so I mean, kudos to you for that.
Yeah.
Kudos to you, Dr. Marcy, for coming tonight, and, this is good, but at the same time, we gotta hold people accountable, so.
Sure. Do we have the chart? What I would suggest is that,
If there's a violation in 2 years as part of my
Yeah.
motion, that, unfortunately, we gotta pull your,
okay, so that would be,
Right.
that wouldn't be, so we're not even looking at, now it's even longer now, it's
Even
4.5 years.
right.
Right.
I see, so that's even a more, that's fine. That's very serious. I would say conforming
But
to,
It shouldn't happen, right? I mean, because you can legitimately look at this board in the eye and say that nobody can buy a pack of cigarettes without,
So,
okay?
if they do it right, they can. Is there a way around everything? Yeah, they'd have to ring it up as something different.
Right.
Again, this is, I don't wanna say it's out of my
But
control.
that's somebody
it
that really
is.
wants to connive, and I don't think the kids are really into that.
Yeah, so, you get a fresh kid and he sells it as a pack of gum, a $10 pack of gum. That's the only way. But if they do it the way it's supposed to be done,
Because the way I see it, we have two options. We hold you accountable for 60 days and we say you can't sell tobacco starting on January 1st. Get through the holiday. January 1st, you can't sell tobacco for 2 days. Or if you can convince this board that there is going to be a zero tolerance, but if you do have it, you're out of business. And
Okay.
so,
again, I appreciate whatever you guys do. Because I'm not there, I can't promise that.
okay.
I'm not there all the time. Now, I can put all these, there's only two things I can do, really. One, take them out. And that's the zero tolerance. That's a guarantee. This is the third time I'm here, and it's always been because of a young kid, or an employee, I should say. So, I would love to say yes, but I'm not gonna lie. I can't promise you that. I can't, because it's out of
here's a
my
question,
hands.
David, and we discussed this in the office today, if the board doesn't mind.
Go ahead, John.
And you just said the words that brought it back to my mind. Okay, so if that's the case, and until you feel comfortable with training, could you make a decision, it's your decision as a manager, not to sell tobacco when you have youth selling tobacco? If you feel uncomfortable, they could sell to a minor. So that would
nights and
be,
weekends,
yeah.
'cause that's when they work.
I think that would even be harder to manage, that-
Or you get an older person to come out and sell it, if there's someone in the garage or
You
something
gotta be
like that.
somewhere on a Friday night at 6 o'clock and pulling all the cigarettes, no.
I would just say
The problem
they
is
don't.
nights and
yeah,
weekends,
it's-
there's
yeah.
one student. There are nights and we can buy them from
You know
5
how
to
they
9.
shut the shutters down on alcohol in the old days? They did in the grocery stores if they didn't sell Sunday
Put the sheet
mornings.
over it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking something like that, so they don't even see them. But then again, just a thought. It's
Do you
your
have the
decision.
regular customers that go in there that
Yeah,
are
they're gonna
gonna
say,
go
"What do you
for
mean
that?"
I can't buy today?" I understand that too, but just to make it real fail-safe, if you feel the older employees aren't selling and the young ones may sell.
I think one thing that might help you is when you bring in a new employee,
Yeah.
have them sit down and chat with him.
Until
Or
he goes
he'll
off
be
to
in college
college.
next
She's
year.
off to college.
Every year, that's the thing. Like I said, every year,
Yeah.
year and a half at the most, they're gone, and I always have new recruits, all new ones.
I think you meant the new recruits, correct?
Yeah, have the new recruits sit down with a seasoned person.
He won't do it again, but he's
You
gone.
know what?
in a
I'm
few
gonna have
weeks.
I can have his brother his brother's in filmmaking. I'm gonna have him make a video that you can show
Yeah.
to.
I like it.
I don't think
your
anyone in
place.
this room has a guarantee, you know what I mean? There really isn't.
Yeah.
I hope we
There
do the
isn't.
best we can do, and I gotta take the hits as they come, I guess. I wish I had a foolproof. I don't.
But I think Dr. Marcy brought up a good point when she sat down first tonight, is that with the benefit of having WACA-TV here tonight, I think that we could probably make a tobacco video that we could distribute. I mean, it's separate than this, but that we could do it with WACA. Maybe have you guys come in and, talk about the importance, maybe even have Joe come in and
Yeah.
talk, talk
I
about
agree.
the importance of it. And then,
Videos are
and
very
then,
helpful.
and then
But
pro-
it-
and then
because-
produce these videos to the kids and stuff like that.
The important part is that you have it starts with a 17-year-old's mind, not
Mhm.
fully realizing the full implications of his actions and him going, oh yeah, here man, I'm busy, just get it out of the store. And it trickles down to now Dave being here, paying a fine, possibly losing his business, in tobacco sales and possibly food. And like that 17-year-old mind, I don't think can process that. And so, and I don't think that Dave telling Joe and all his other employees don't sell tobacco to, you know, there needs to be a better a way of informing these kids and training these people to realize that this leads to this, and it's very serious.
Consequences, yep.
And being in the front row, I think, you know, like somebody, whether it's from the town or the state, like I said, it's gotta be 2 or 3 times a year, and they all gotta attend it, you know. That, I'm saying that to help me, you know what I mean? To help me prevent me from being back
Well, it's
here.
not just you, it's whatever other businesses in town. You said there's
Correct.
18 businesses in town, right? And they all employ children, I'm assuming, between 16 and 20 and 21 or whatever, you know, and adults, because you said some adults have sold it too, so.
Well, it would,
Senior
no,
citizens.
yeah,
But I think it's most critical with the kids, because the kids are the ones that are very impulsive and don't
but-
realize the full.
But the counter argument is this, is alcohol. And we take that as serious as tobacco, as serious as alcohol. You can't sell alcohol if you're under 21. Which brings to light, we had this discussion as well, that maybe, as what you just said about the development of the brain, maybe it's something we have to consider. Unfortunately, it's, then that choice would have to be made when you hire them. Do you sell, you know, you wouldn't be able to
I
sell
wouldn't be able to
tobacco.
hire them. Like,
Right.
Yeah,
Well, you could, but you wouldn't be able to sell tobacco when they work there unless they had an adult.
so I couldn't hire them.
that gets tricky, yeah.
Yeah, and that unfortunately, but no different with alcohol. That has, and you said you're thinking about selling beer and
No, I
wine.
can't, the school next door is joking.
It was
Oh,
a joke.
Yeah.
No, it's outside the purview of this board, but I mean, teenage unemployment is a huge issue. I mean,
No, I understand that
Right.
too.
You have teenage kids, I have teenage kids, I mean, it's a big issue, so when you have an employer in town willing to hire teenage kids.
And I
you know,
don't discount that,
yeah,
I'm just
Yeah,
trying
that's
to,
huge.
yeah,
at
huge.
the same time, tobacco, you know,
Yeah.
alcohol,
No, no,
you know, I'm
yeah.
trying to bring up
You're absolutely right.
your very important discussion, that, you know, what do you do? How can you change the mindset of
It's
a youth?
reinforcement. I mean, it's education and
Well, that's what we're here,
reinforcement.
for. That's what
Yeah.
we're doing, you
Yeah.
know, in
Not just
education.
here, though, I mean, it's, you know, it should be
Yep.
more.
So
I'm
my
wondering-
amended motion is still on the table, so.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we could make an exception and extend his for the 4 years and see if his new system works.
That could happen, we would go from the date when he sold 3 years ago.
Right.
To 4 years from there, with how many weeks of suspension of sales?
Then we would go with at least the 30.
The 30, okay, that's a
30
possibility.
days.
There's a lot of opportunity for the board to work out.
I mean, I think he's gone
Based
above
on
and
good
beyond
grace.
getting this locked
No,
out.
no,
and-
yeah, I was shocked when I heard it was Dave, to be honest with you, Marathon Mobile, I really was shocked. I said, no.
So you're saying that we paid the fine, which has already been paid,
Right,
extended out to a 4th year,
right.
and then, God forbid, there's a violation
Right.
within that 4th year, then what happens?
I skipped town.
Right, then he'd lose his permit to sell,
The other thing that
Period.
just,
period.
yeah,
Not
just,
for a probationary period, period.
the one thing,
I- I would
Dave,
support that.
Wait, lose
Yeah.
what permit?
The-
Food and everything?
yeah,
Permanently.
it's in the regs.
Yeah.
The thing though, Dave, that you should be aware of is that you had a very good time span between July 20th of 2015. You went all the way up to November of 2017.
17.
You went 2 years
I
and
wish I
3
could take that
months,
credit,
4 or
but
5
again-
months. But no, it shows you can do it,
Right.
you know, so, I mean, that's another part that you wouldn't be setting a precedent if you include that too, to show that he had a good 2-year span. Unfortunately, it wasn't a 3-year span, and which brings to light all these things we talked about: training, more education, as well as we do enough comprehensive inspections so that we don't have to worry about it. And you have your inspections by a tobacco inspector as well, but that just more consideration for why, if you're doing this, you know, because this may come back to the board with another vendor who may be in the same situation, where they'll say, well, you just did this for that venue. Whatever you're doing,
Well, we
we
always
could
have to be
then-
consistent, though.
Yeah.
We have to be
But we
consistent.
could then require them to put the same kind of a lockout system as he has,
Correct.
with no
Yep,
override.
exactly. Yeah, with the
Correct.
lockout too.
Yeah,
So,
and
I
we
mean,
would have to.
right.
We have to be consistent. Right? Open yourself up for liability. Because remember that was the attorney who, at our last tobacco hearing, was saying that, we weren't being consistent.
Yeah.
So, is yours an informal motion?
I'll make a motion that we,
Well, I'll have to withdraw my
Oh,
motion.
I'm sorry.
I'll withdraw my initial motion, which I just did for conversation first.
Well, do you want any comments from the owner too, or are you all set to roll? With,
I think we've heard enough.
can the chair make a motion, John, or
The
should?
chair can make a motion.
Okay,
Yeah. Chair can make a motion.
okay. That's
oh,
fine.
you say it so much more eloquently though, John.
No, I just,
Boy, that's the truth, we're all enjoying. No, but yeah, so, why don't you restate what you were saying?
I mean, I would like to, extend their time period over 4 years.
so that would be up to March 21st of 2019. It's only a
Okay,
year and a half, year and 3/4.
Yeah.
right,
It's not that far away. A year and a quarter,
Year and a
basically.
quarter, yeah.
yeah,
So March 21st, 2019.
okay. And
Up
that he
to
have
that.
no,
Tobacco
no,
sales to minors.
yeah, no tobacco sales to minors in that period of time.
Of any type of tobacco,
any
by
type, yeah.
definition, because it's the
But
vape.
also that the suspension for this offense be down to 14 days, 2 weeks, and the fine has already been paid,
And they would have to suspend their permit for 14 days.
right, for 14 days.
Do you want to state the date you want it started? So that, I know John mentioned January 1st, I think that's
Yeah, that
reasonable.
sounds good.
Seems fair.
Is that okay for you?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
I think that's pretty fair
Okay.
from what I've heard.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
You all set?
Thank you, guys.
Is there anything that we can do to help you? I mean, now that you have this, I mean, do you have proper signage? Would it be helpful if,
Oh, yeah, no, the sign is just there.
be
the
helpful if
sign's there.
somebody came in and talked to your staff?
Well, either that or even if, like I said, 2 or 3 times a year, even if it was in a building and you get the locals to, okay, these are the 3 classes and, just need to mandatory attendance.
You can-
Again, maybe I'm doing it self-tics, it would really help me
That's something
greatly.
that-
No,
we
I
could actually
think you
do.
bring up a great point, and it's, yeah, it's another night out, but it's a
But it's
productive
something that
night
we
out.
could do.
Right, it's very easy to do, yeah, it's very easy. to do.
We do have someone from Cheryl Sabara's group that did the training for us through the region. She was very good. I went to one of the sessions in the morning, she had one in the afternoon,
Does
the
she have
same
any of
session.
them taped?
No,
But
but we can find out.
Mercy said, it's reinforcement to
Yeah.
kids.
And I wouldn't recommend a long one, maybe,
Yeah, just a-
after 5-10 minutes,
Yeah.
that's it.
I like
Yeah,
the video, in,
absolutely.
in
Yeah.
today's
I think a
world,
video,
the
just- Here's John, watch
videos,
this video.
I think a video, you get them all in the same room.
Yeah.
Explain why you're there, we're gonna watch this video, and then open it up to questions, everybody have questions, alright, get out, it's great.
but what I would also suggest is that video go to all the businesses and you
Yeah.
show it
And
to
the
every
DVD.
new person you hire
Yeah.
and spend
And
15,
reinforcements maybe
yeah.
every 6 months.
Have them sign the regulations that they've read them and understand them. And I know it won't change complete behavior, but it's a start too, right from management, that they get educated right at the, because you have to educate them on how to use the register, I'm sure,
Of course.
and how to count the money up at the end of the day.
And we have to have this conversation as a board, because we don't, the state still, my words, the state still doesn't have their act together.
They don't
Dave
have
could be
enough.
selling recreational marijuana,
Right.
within the next year.
I
So, I mean.
already applied.
You're gonna grow it in the back, right?
What's that?
But I mean, but it's reality, so we're gonna
Absolutely.
be having this conversation, so I think it's
We
just,
did
it gives
this
an
4
opportunity
years
to
ago.
help
They've
the
got
business owners.
They've got the ads on the radio now
You're
to
right.
teach you how to grow medical marijuana. Come to this class.
Okay.
Very impressive, young man, very impressive.
Thank you.
I thought that was great,
Thanks, John.
thanks for doing that.
Hope your career's gonna be good in the future. What are you planning to do?
I'm looking to go into nursing, actually.
Good job.
Yeah.
There's one right there.
No, and your son too.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you
All right,
guys.
Thanks,
any
guys.
questions for us?
No, that's it, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for,
Yeah.
you know, your leniency, and we're gonna keep plugging,
I know you are,
keep trying.
because I'm gonna be down there every day if you don't. No.
I just have one more point, and that is, just to, you know, you train these kids and you can do the video or whatever. If you have someone that's coming in and trying to figure out if they have IDs, why can't you just send someone in anyway and sort of test them?
Businesses do that with their own groups. You could
Right.
do that, by the way. You could
Mobile
send.
has a group
You
that
could,
does that.
a friend of yours maybe could go in there, no one knows, do
Yeah.
it yourself. We asked that, it's a great
Because-
idea.
Because, you know, then these kids are like, oh my God, this is really,
It's
you
real.
know, it
Yeah.
would scare them.
Yeah, it would be a very
So-
important
Scare
thing to
them
think
straight,
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I'm not
Same.
mistaken, mobile has,
Well, we
I
have
thought
mystery
it was-
shoppers, but not for a cigarette.
Well, maybe
They come in
ask-
every
no,
month.
they, if I remember right, when it was down at, or maybe it was Shell.
It was
It
Shell.
was show.
Shell
Okay.
has mystery
Yeah.
shoppers.
So other stations do that, so you may
Yeah,
wanna
they-
ask them, you know, it wouldn't be bad if you could ask Exxon Mobil, trying to say ask Exxon several times, if they might be able to get the mystery shopper to try to buy tobacco.
Yeah.
That would be great if they added that to their program, cause yeah, it's all internal, then you got it even a deeper control,
Yeah.
great idea.
They do that with
Well,
us.
I mean,
with-
I'm not just
with
talking about
partners,
just
you know.
ExxonMobil. I'm talking about like you find someone that goes from store to store in town and tries to buy cigarettes from all the new employees, and then when they mess up, rather than be like, "Oh my God, you owe us this big fine," you go, "Listen, you messed up, and I want you to know how serious this is." And
I think there are
That would-
programs
that would
out there
drive
like
it.
Yeah.
that.
Nothing from the town, that we're trying to
No, nothing from the
localize it.
town. When
Yeah.
we do it, it has to be a regulatory message. But there are private groups that do that, so you may wanna check it out. You know,
Because
ask
if a
Shell
mem-
who they use.
If a member of this board did that,
well, it doesn't have to be that.
work, but if we hired somebody,
Yeah.
it would open us up. I mean, I agree with you 1,000% to do
Mhm.
it, but if we did that, then it would open us up to liability and leniency.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why that has person,
Right.
that's why I started it with appropriate trained
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elliot's been doing this for years, so he knows the ropes, and it's not easy to set a program up to train.
I realize that.
and all that. And your help could be to let us know maybe if the video is set up, you know, what could we do to make sure we're getting to the behavior, with your son helping too, to change ways.
Well, you need, yeah, I mean, the video has to include kids. I mean, they've got to be able to relate to the video, so,
There we go.
yeah.
All that
Very
can be
cool.
helpful.
Yeah.
So hopefully you'll be part of that video.
Maybe, yeah.
Hopefully not.
As the
I don't know that I want that to be his legacy here.
As the trainer, not as the person doing the action.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
thank you for coming in.
Joe, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Good luck. You learn this in nursing, this is the public health handshake, there you go. Dave knows that now,
Oh, yeah.
especially at this time of year.
Thank you.
That's why, you know, people bow.
Thanks, Mary.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys. Thanks again.
All right, can we move on
Okay, yes,
to,
John, what's your schedule like?
Eva Beaver?
I got about 40 minutes or so.
Okay.
We should be able to bang this out.
Beaver Dam, just so the board knows, we had a need to issue an emergency waiver, and I did that, and just have the board, if you don't mind ratifying that, and I did have, just so the board knows, we've been very fortunate with Central Mass Mosquito Control. Again, they came to the assistance with the labor, we provided the materials, and they were excellent, and they worked on this. There was potential for flooding many of properties. It wasn't just one property, but one property person brought it to our attention at first, and then we were over on Franklin Road for backup issues, so, you know, there was a need to move this along as quick as possible. That's why I did not wait for a board meeting, and I would ask the board to ratify my decision.
Not a problem.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we ratify the public health director's decision on the Beaver Dam emergency for 220 West Union Street.
And it was,
I'll second that.
and if I may add just one other thing, and it included mosquito control, because they were,
Along
And,
with mosquito
yeah, with,
control. Yep.
that was another concern was mosquito populations, so that was the additional concern.
Speaking of population,
Yeah.
with, you know, this has gotta be, and, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, the 4th or 5th year where we've had,
A
Beaver.
West Nile virus.
well, that's another good point, but I was specifically talking about beaver. Is the beaver population growing?
300% overpopulated in average since we started
Since we
having
started,
issues back in 2001. What happened was, and it was a good decision by the state, is there was an inhumane way to trap the leg holding traps, and those poor beaver, in all respects, would be held by a
Chewing
leg
the
holder,
Right.
and then other animals would do
Right.
them in.
Right.
So it was inhumane. So,
Right.
but the balance, the problem is the hunters went away, and there's not enough balance in the environment. There's always got to be an equal balance, because then without the balance, you start having other issues of vector-borne disease and so forth. We see it also with deer population.
I was gonna say, with deer, beaver,
Yeah.
coyote,
So
turkeys,
yeah.
I mean, the
Division of Wildlife
populations
and
are
Fisheries
like
have
off the charts with
indicated
these.
300% over when all that happens. So there are additional trappers coming in, but there are additional methods to use that aren't as lethal as or inhumane. One of them is what we did here. We utilized a water lowering control device to allow the water to go through the dam, and at the same time leave enough water for the safety of the pups that beavers basically go under the water and into their hut, and that's how they protect their pups in there.
Right.
Is if an intruder comes at them, they're underwater, and they'll fight underwater to make sure they don't get intruded on. So you can find a happy middle by keeping it at the level they need and not higher than that. They hear water running, they'll dam higher and higher, and it doesn't affect them, but it does affect the property owners. So there's a middle point.
And you brought up inadvertently, I think you brought up this has gotta be the second or third year in a row where we've had the West Nile too.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or every other year.
Is the
it's-
state gonna be doing anything proactively? Has there been any conversations about that?
They have been proactive in respect to.
No, I'm not saying that they haven't been, but I mean, it's a growing problem.
Yeah, well, the problem we see too is that if you don't get the water moving, and Ashland's fortunate to have Central Mass Mosquito Control, Regional Mosquito Control Group, where they don't have them, and you see even more of an
Right.
increase. So what happened was, in all the cases, we were fortunate to be trapping and knowing our situation through Central Mass Mosquito. So we had a mosquito that had the virus. We didn't have a person, thankfully so. But it's unfortunate where you see the higher rates of people being affected by it are usually more south of us and so forth. But again, we're proactive, get the word out, make sure, just like we were talking, education, making sure people know, wear mosquito repellent, long sleeves.
And that's why I was bringing it up, is, if we're in videos, which I totally support to do, is that maybe, next spring, we should be running some PSAs.
We did this year too. The state has PSAs, but
Right.
nothing wrong with doing local PSAs
Right.
too.
Yeah, I think it's a
Sometimes
good
people,
idea.
hey, that's John. Hey, they'll watch it.
No, I mean,
versus a
but I think
state
it's a good
PSA.
idea because of it's the social media world that we live in now is, when we had the, notification this year, just an inadvertent post on Facebook and the thing blew up. I mean, well, okay, how come you're not testing my neighborhood? How come you only tested over here? And, I think it would be good information.
And we do test the
Yeah.
entire town. It's just we found one
Right,
in
we
the
found hits,
certain
yeah,
quadrant.
yeah.
And there's no boundaries either. That included all the abutting towns and vice versa. If a town had a hit, there's no boundaries in mosquito control because they can
Right.
fly around, through boundaries. So.
It's just good information.
Yeah, no, and the more we can do it relates to cable, the better. If I had, the opportunity, and I'm fortunately with what's going on with the busy environment we're in, because the environment's very good right now. It's a healthy environment we're in. We're very busy as it relates to development and so forth, and I want a healthy development environment. So with that said, I used to enjoy doing shows on WACA-TV, but it took some time to set them up, do them. But I just had a note for the month of February, March to recreate some ideas, and obviously we could even create videos because of the fact that people are more in tune to the internet, and maybe it could be something that could be shown on the internet versus turning on a cable channel. Because down the road, as we know too, and I see it in my household, people don't depend on the internet. I mean, the cable
Yeah,
stations,
cable,
they depend on, my youth in my house, they're not youth anymore. My kids are watching basically internet sent down exactly through their phone, John, and then they place it on the TV.
Right.
And it's amazing the clarity, and they don't care about the news. Not that they don't care, they care about it, they get it a different way.
Different
But they're
way.
not interested
My
in
kids don't
seeing.
watch. My kids don't watch TV. They have their
Oh, they take
iPads
it
and their
with them.
phones.
And
Yep.
right,
Yep.
exactly.
It's a lost thing.
Okay, so we have a
anyways,
motion to,
I'm sorry. I had to live.
Ratify his
Ratify-
emergency
ratify Mark's decision on the beaver.
and the mosquitoes.
And we have a
I
second.
seconded it, yep.
No further discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye?
You okay?
And the next one is for the RTD, Cyrus.
Yeah, the wells.
And yeah, and they did test it as we required, and,
This is the shutdown test?
yes, shutdown test, yep. And David at Eastridge said if the board has any questions, he can come to another meeting. He had a, obligation tonight, a family obligation. I said, I think if there are questions, I can send it back to you if you need to, but you'll see manganese is still high. And, it's a naturally occurring mineral that's in the, actual earth, but they are treating for it at the same time. And just so the board knows, they're as concerned about it as we are, because it stains the sidewalks. And so that's why they're treating for it. But the closeout, as I told Dave, I personally, with the manganese, as long as they keep control on it, I don't see an issue with it, as well as, the other one is the, iron. And those are the two minerals you typically see, when you, in a natural core of the earth, and especially in New England area.
Yeah,
You see
iron is
iron and
always high.
manganese is higher levels. These are unusually higher, but again, this is a big well, deep. It's drawing from more of the earth. It's the core of the not earth, but the bedrock.
Aquifer,
Right.
yeah,
Bedrock, so in which the bedrock, which those aquifers travel through fissures in the bedrock and draw in the minerals of the iron and manganese. So they'll be doing a startup test, and I'm satisfied with the results. I was very happy to see they don't have any VOCs.
Yep.
And that's, again, I think important because they're so
Yeah.
close to the Nyanza site that, those are the things we should be watching as well.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
Good problem.
I can't recall, were they filtering for some of these too?
They're
or-
treating.
or treating
They're
it?
treating. They
So
have
What do they do?
they have these vats of solutions that they run into it,
through.
and it helps to remove some of the manganese out of the water itself. It probably coagulates the manganese out and doesn't have it dissolved in the water, but the exact process, I'd have to go back and get the
No, that's fine.
information. But they,
So is this, I'm sorry, is this pre that, or is this post that?
it will say the area, they didn't say if it was pre or post. Sometimes they'll say pre-filter or post-filter. I can find that answer.
No, I just didn't.
No, it's a good, it should
No, I
say
mean,
on here. That might be
If you
pre.
feel comfortable with it,
No, I'd like
I'm
to know.
comfortable with it. I
They
just
need
don't.
to, because we know they're doing treatment. I'd like to know if it's
Yep.
pre-treatment or post-treatment. I can find that out.
just
I'll
a-
ask
just a
David to
question.
have the lab update the report to state pre or post, and that way it'll be on record as well. Because then we can tell if the treatment is working or if it's just, if it's even worth doing,
Right,
you know?
all right.
Maybe we could talk about it another time, because
Yep.
of time, but, there's a couple other things on this report maybe we should talk about.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Go ahead,
Well, no,
Jim.
I mean, it's just copper, hardness.
Yeah, those are things you see,
It's jumped, that kinda jumped off and I'm not gonna pronounce it right, alpha,
The hardness usually is caused by the minerals,
right,
Yeah,
and,
but nothing jumps off that page.
no, not that I see.
Okay.
And if you were drinking this water, it'd be a different story. You
Okay.
probably wouldn't
And
want a
that's-
hard water. You
right.
wouldn't be sudsing up too well.
Right,
And
it's very hard water,
yeah.
yeah.
But the sodium is pretty decent. You worry about sodium. That's one of the ones you'd be concerned. I mean, all these are concerning to some degree. We wouldn't test for it. The two that I would say you're really public in the matter of seriousness is the lead is very important, and the lead is undetected.
right.
And let me see if I can see anything else that would jump out at me. No, but those are the ones. And again, I wouldn't expect lead in this because they're piping through, PVC piping.
But just the turbidity too is low.
Yeah, yeah. So some are good, some are expected in New England water. They had the same problem in another development they built in Hudson with the manganese, because the wells are so deep, they picking up a lot of fissures. Because they need that quantity. But the one thing, just so the board knows, is we have irrigation wells for larger developments, and a few of them in town, they're condo developments, and there could be the day, and they have to, I make them aware, we may need to tap into that to fill a tank of trucks if we ever need to get water in a very, statewide emergency or something like that. So it's nice to know you have wells available. They are in other places already agreed to it, but they change hands, but we still could, dire emergency, I'm sure we could tap into them.
Okay. Continuing on to
a
grease
whole
traps.
slew, and we were told by our legal counsel that we had to list them all, so there they all are for you. I don't know how you wanna handle it,
I'll make a
Mary.
motion that we move the annual grease trap approval for establishments with external grease trap waivers. Remove the list.
And if I may, just to help you on that too, as Dan Maurer, that's Water and Sewer Commissioner, indicated, due to timing, you know, that the same procedure would take place. If there's an issue, he'll bring them to the board, you know,
Okay.
but that would be part of that allowance, that is without any issues, is recognized by either our department or Water and Sewer.
Okay.
I'll second John's motion.
Any further discussion?
The only discussion that I would have is that, and not to get specific, Mark, but
Yeah.
was there any issue throughout this last calendar year?
No,
No,
you know, it's
there
working,
hasn't been.
it's
Right,
truly
It's
working.
truly working, and that's the
And-
point I
and-
wanted to highlight.
And
yeah.
there's one facility here that brought in their book and they did their weekly. They're the ones that had a problem that,
Correct.
if you want, I can bring that one up, but I don't need to mention a name if you don't wish to. But that person was in today actually and gave us their book. I looked through it and they were doing weekly because they know how important it is to do weekly or they're gonna end up with an external grease
Right.
trap. They had a clog out front of their business once, that's why.
Yeah.
They are on real high alert,
No,
so
but this is
that's,
proof that since we've gone to this,
it's
It's
working.
working.
Yeah, it's
Good,
definitely.
good, good.
Okay, I
great.
have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, Brogden Road subdivision. Just so the board knows, it's a very small subdivision. It's a matter of 2 homes. Brogden Road is the new subdivision that was built by Hickey. It's off of Cross Street. And what they decided to do, they had a plot of land at a dead-ended road. It's just, I'm sorry you don't have a plan. I should have brought the plan. I didn't bring the plan.
Yeah, no, I was printing
But-
it out today.
No, I know where it is.
Yeah.
So basically, if you want, I can show you that it's a dead-ended road with 2 houses on each side of it, and Brogden goes down this way and this way and comes out to Cross Street here. So this dead-ended road, basically, a house here, and then there's a house going further down. But there was land, I'll show this up, this might have to be part of the record, you're gonna love my hand.
I have their plans,
got it.
Mark.
Oh,
if
you do?
want.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, you did.
I printed them out, so you wanna,
Yeah,
go ahead.
let
There- you can
these
look through
be
there.
the,
Yeah, right, you can,
thank you.
You're welcome.
So, thank you, that really.
Is this Brogan or Brogden?
It, Brogden is how they've been
Brogden,
saying it, but.
There's
so
bigger
thank-
pictures in the back
thank you.
too,
And
if you,
there's-
if you run through that.
Yeah, and it's quite a bit of land,
Yeah,
so,
it's a-
but
it's
they're
like
only
10
gonna,
acres.
they
Yeah.
could have put 6 houses here if they decided on a different form, but they're just asking for 2 homes. And, basically, I just want the board to know that I've been to 1 meeting on it, and I don't see a problem with it, but, because it's a subdivision, it would require your approval, and here's the 2 homes, and we'll make this, can I have this
Oh,
as
yeah,
part of the record?
absolutely.
And.
Well, you live over there, right?
Yeah, right, I haven't driven down, but yep.
You want to say
Thank you,
No,
this?
Mr.
John?
I
Chairman.
No, I
yeah,
saw it, thank you.
You saw it? Okay.
Beautiful.
I'm
So I'd
familiar
recommend
with the
approval of
project,
it as
Okay.
presented for 2 house lots to the board, and that would be forwarded to the planning board for their knowledge under the subdivision laws.
Okay.
Right.
Any further comment?
Thank you for the update.
Okay, so it's okay to say the Board of Health is in
Yes.
approval of the,
Yeah.
of
Yep.
the division.
And we've reviewed it.
Yep. And then the minutes are up.
I will make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes for August 29th, October 3rd, and October 17th, 2017, as presented. Once again, another excellent job by Laura.
Agreed. Nice job, Laura. Yeah,
Very nice.
Oh,
I
that's
agree
good.
with that and second that motion as well.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay.
Boy, that was easy.
Yep. Okay, budget.
So the board, you have in front of you a more up-to-date budget. I believe the one you have is 12/12/2017 for the 2017-18 budget, which we call the FY18, the active budget, I'll call it. And we're still very good on this, but again, I expect additional expenses coming from contracted services based on the fact that's the landfill. And,
Right.
you know, there's additional testing that'll be required and so forth. Then just so the board knows, and I went to our town accountant's assistant to just let him know some of our, and she's gonna change it. When we see these other accounts talking about total Board of Health gifts, and KG has brought it to our attention as well, they need to be updated. And so some of these are so old, she started looking into them, because in the Munis system, the assistant to the town accountant can look into them, and she's gonna start modifying them. I explained each one. I said, we were in charge of the landfill and solid waste and special collections back up to 2001. So it goes back. It's just a strike. They just never changed it.
Right.
So, but now that they reported out, we will just be seeing tobacco, food inspection. The Board of Health donations are going to animal control. That was a donation for the animal control department, which falls under both us and police department. But that's more for the work she does with the kennel. And the rest of it, you'll see in here some of the Board of Health Amoresco. Again, there's nothing in there, but again, why it get to ours, we've been, when management really is dealing with Amoresco's, so we're gonna clean this up is what I'm trying
Good.
to say in a nutshell.
That'll save a lot of questions.
Yes, it will. It'll help through the process.
All right,
And then I have a summary of what we had to present a budget prior to between the proposed last meeting and this meeting, and so this was my summary to the board. And again, there's several things in here that, and I've talked to management about it, and I told management the board has mentioned in the past that the board may be going to finance to discuss this, and maybe we should have the management in to see the board first, because they have views as well. Trying to be
Well, I won't.
polite.
I won't be. Just because I'm passionate about it, is that if you weren't aware at the town meeting, when the discussion of free cash came as a topic of discussion, if you remember 2 years ago, the town hired a social worker, which I think was smart to do, and I applaud the decision, from free cash allocation. So this year at town meeting, I got up and suggested that we take some of the free cash that was being returned from the budget and hire a public health nurse. Unfortunately, that motion was not successful, but I think it was poignant, and I think the reason why I did it was to stimulate the conversation. For many reasons that this board is aware of, we cannot continue to operate the way we're staffed. For 100 different reasons, we cannot continue to operate. And yes, this board has had its opportunities and has been its own worst enemy and stuff like that. But the public health of this town should not be jeopardized because of that. And, I've got data to suggest that an apartment our size should have 6 full-time employees. We're not even half of that. And I'm not saying that we go from, 2.75 that we're at now to 6, but I do think that, we do have to have a serious discussion. Either we get an assistant health director or we get a public health nurse.
and actually, we need both.
And it's,
And we do need both, but, baby steps, because there's other priorities in
Exactly.
town.
and there's a nice
But
little chart.
there has to be a discussion.
We have been doing baby steps, you'll see from
No,
FY thirty, but it's only, we had 2 in FY 13, that was Laura and I, or Diane and I back then. Then 2.15 in the next year, 2.3, 2.3, 2.3, 4 years without any change, and it's 2.3. Now, basically, so you know who the staffing, it's Laura, it's myself, and it's our, as I said, minimal tobacco compliance officer, the nurse for 5 hours a week, and our food inspector for about 12 hours.
But
so-
just look at the last calendar year, and it's, we just talked about the Sirius apartments. How many people are living up there that weren't living in town a year ago? And then we just talked about this development where another 2 houses are coming in, and thank you, Lord, things are good in Ashland right now. We're developing stuff, we're a growing town, we're a thriving community. We just had a beautiful business come into town tonight. All of that affects this department.
Oh, yes.
And we can't continue to grow in this town. I mean, granted, you're gonna have to grow police and fire because of all of this too. But, public health has to grow too. And it was highlighted here tonight, we've got, public issues, that are in our backyard right now with tobacco and everything.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
We can no longer continue to operate, like it's not needed. you know, it's mandatory. And I applaud, you know, the fact that this town is being run as well as it's being run, that people wanna come and open businesses here and build housing developments, but at the same time, we can't put public health at risk.
And it just,
And
if
we
you,
cannot not have that conversation just because we had some opportunities.
I respect that.
And
The board may want to look at the very back side of it, just, you can go through it as a checklist, and you'll see I underlined some of it. We're gonna see explanation of budgetary changes, you see the highlight yellow again,
Yeah.
thank you, Laura. The Board of Health voted the following December fifth,
Same,
2017 for FY 2019, that's if you so,
what are you guys referencing? I'm sorry.
well, this is if you guys decide, there's, on this page here,
I don't know if we, ours isn't laid
What's the
out
top
that way.
document?
oh, I'm sorry, it
This
looks
one.
like this, it's the summary.
You didn't have this one?
There
I've
might
got
be
a-
two in there,
I've
I
got a
think.
summary, but it's.
Yeah, but it looks a little different.
There could be two in there, I think, because I had a summary too that
Oh,
was,
okay.
no, it has the, here, this one, I can,
No, it's all right.
Yeah, that's okay.
I just need to know what we're talking about.
and then you and I can share this
Yeah,
one, and
yeah.
Thank you.
so,
Oh,
that's
okay,
fine.
great.
yeah. So basically, first thing is the date is wrong, because I thought we were meeting on the fifth, so that would be December 12th, or just a minor change. But then, as you, it's up to you if you so wish to vote on this,
It's
is,
not, it's not yellow.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
no, that's okay.
Pass that back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you didn't highlight theirs, huh? So you do have
They
that?
highlighted ours in gray.
So if you wanna run down them quickly, I'm aware of the time at the same time. You know, the landfill is definitely gonna go up, we're looking at a 3-year contract, and just knowing what we got from the other vendors when we went for the additional 9 months, you know, we're getting a good deal right now, and I'm hoping we will continue, but, and there is a reason for it, because we always look at why is the lower bidder so much different from the other bidders, and the reason is they have their own lab. It saves them quite a bit of cost, so they've indicated that's how
Well,
they.
I think you bring up a good point though about the landfill, is this board's aware that we gave the first 12 inches back to the Board of Selectmen, and then we control anything below that 12 inches.
Right.
The board understands what's going on up there, I don't know that the board agrees with what's going on up there. And one, we haven't talked about that recently, and we probably can't tonight for open meeting law purposes. But I think this board could make a case that, why is it in our budget? And, you know,
Yeah,
it's.
other
it's-
towns it's not, other
Well,
towns.
and that's kind of what my point is that I know the bill still needs to get paid by the town, but it's no longer a Board of Health issue, really.
Right,
Right, so I mean,
we own the top 12 inches.
no, we own
I mean,
below,
everything under the
below,
12
but-
inches.
I mean, it doesn't matter one
but
way or
it's
the
really
other.
not a
but-
landfill anymore, it's
Yeah,
a
it's a
solar
cap
farm.
plant,
Right.
but this cost is gonna be for the, purpose of the continued required testing by
Monitoring,
DEP.
yeah.
And we have saved the town quite a bit, because
Yeah,
we
but it's-
go out and do the testing. Actually, I'll go take the samples from the 2 homes when we need to test them, so that's a little bit at the end of that sentence, so that's been saving the town some money too. But again, if you have the contract to go do it, your prices are gonna go up.
Right, but this issue's caused some angst, and,
Yeah, and you'll see it's
It's not-
20,
it's not
just for
worth
the 9 months, 15,000 versus that 21, 24, actually almost 22, 24, almost 24, and almost 30.
Right.
Those are the other 3 bidders, just for the 9 months. So, and that's not even a full year, so, you know, it's substantial. So, let's hope, you know, we can rebid and get, you know, management thought we'd do good by rebidding, and
We
it's
did.
still, I explained to them, ATC is probably gonna still come out low based on what they've told me in the past, because I questioned them, I said, how can you be so much different? And that's what they told me, is they have their own labs, it makes a major difference in cost. So there must be a lot of overhead in having a lab, but
Evidently.
but they've been provided this, they've seen this, and I don't know where they're going with it. I haven't heard back what they're planning. We're one of the smaller departments to them, but there's still additional costs from what we had to pay this year. And I expect that's gonna go up, and we're gonna work with them for a 3-year bid, and I'm hoping I can get it done in the next few days I have here, before I'm taking a leave for a little bit, and I'll go over it with the board after the meeting. If not, we'll have to take a look at it maybe at the end of January when or they can go out and bid, like, because it's already been done, it's easy, you just change the term on the on the bid, you know, just the 3
the
years
dates.
versus, and the dates, so it should be easy to do, because we've already been through it, but that's gonna be a highlight for additional burden to the need of us having resources to do that work. And I'm still glad to go out and do the testing of those homes, I don't mind doing it, you have to kinda know how to take the water samples, but I'm very fortunate, as long as Alpha Analytical is right down the street, it's only 10 minutes away. They're on the further side of Ashland, the houses I test, and
Yeah.
the Alpha Analytical's right where Whittier Rehab is in Westboro, right across the street, so it's like a 10-minute ride down. That saves the town quite a bit of money too, so. But the lab costs aren't cheap either, as you can see. Just in Alpha Analytical, we're paying $1,582 per each testing event. Per one, for 2 homes, so it's, you know, per one testing event of both houses. Oh, so it's for both houses, but still not inexpensive, and now we're gonna require more testing. The state keeps adding more too.
Sure.
Mandated, yeah, you can't tell them no, it's a DEP requirement,
Right.
so. Code Red, they want us to split that still, and we used it with West Nile virus, to get the word out, so they want us to split it equally with the other departments, so if I can't get it through Homeland Security, and they're getting tighter and tighter with their budget, then I'll have to,
Is that a 4-way split or a 3-way
a
split?
4-way, for some reason, a clerk, police, DPW, and Board of Health,
What about school?
they have their own, it's a different one.
That's right.
Yeah, so it used to be Connect CTY and Connect EDU, now we use Code Red, I don't know what they use, they might still use Connect EDU. Dues and memberships, again, we were cut last year, as you can see, you could take the comparison out of what we had, and I'm hoping, you know, as money goes away from Homeland Security monies, and now they're making it real strict on what you have to take for courses, we're gonna have to pay out of our own budget, so, we didn't get what we asked for last year, and hopefully we'll get more this year, because I think the burden's gonna be to pay for some of these things, through our budget versus Homeland Security funds, because now they say you have to attend all Homeland Security courses, and it's not always that's needed by the board and myself. And then I went down to training and conferences, so this is the proposal of but it's up to the board, of, what would be expected, and we go further on the next page, public health nurse vaccine program. We'd like to include we've been asked by Human Resources to consider vaccinating the town employees for hepatitis B. Nancy's starting to look into that right now, but it's gonna take, as Mary knows, it's gonna take additional resources, as we all know. But, you know, Mary's even suggested other ideas we could get involved with, so we look at high-dose flu vaccine, you know, offer that, because we're not gonna compete with the big boxes for regular flu vaccine. They're out there advertising way ahead of us, but we may have a niche in some of this, and we should be doing this as a Board of Health practice, you know, it's important.
The only way you compete with the big boxes is if we buy the vaccine.
Yep,
And
and that's
we
what
don't
this
wait for the
5,000.
state, right.
Yeah, and that's what this you're 100% correct, that's what basically took over our flu vaccination program is, they're out advertising in August, and we're waiting for the state in October to get our flu vaccine.
Exactly.
You know, they're not gonna wait, and I don't blame them for not waiting. Doctors too will start inoculating early now, which is important, as we know. So, but that is a $5,000 difference there for the purchase of the flu vaccine or other vaccines. The assistant, again, I truly believe we need to fund a 40-hour position. I've surveyed towns of the similar area within 128 and 495 with the same populations, same demographics, restaurants. You go from 5 employees to, like John said, we're not jumping up, and I know it, but at least one additional person. That person could actually help with on-call coverage too, because we're finding, you know, when I'm on summer vacation or any other time I'm away, it's not easy to find people, because they already have their own commitments. If we had our own permanent, that's what we found out when we surveyed it too. When I called other towns, they said, well, we have our own person, we're not interested in anything at this point, because there's no mutual aid if you're only yourself, you know, we don't have that person, and we're already covered, so we don't need you to help us, you know, kind of what the answer is. So mutual aid was discussed, but that doesn't seem to be working out either, so having another person would really work. And I noted the towns I utilized for comparison: Acton, Hopkinton, Holliston, Hudson, Sudbury, Westboro, and Westwood. Board of Health recording of minutes. Again, very difficult to try to have Laura take leave, which she's well deserves, and she gets per her contract, but if she could be paid for being here, I don't mean to put you in the person, but the person that takes the minutes, which is Laura, it would allow for more additional time in the office that she could do minutes and do other things that filing. We're just getting overwhelmed. Come in and take a look. We're not trying to leave things behind, but we're overwhelmed with all the other duties we have to do. So that's why I would ask again, we consider putting in the needed funding to pay Laura when she's
Because right
here.
now she has to take comp time.
And Ron, just so you know, it was allowed in the years past, and then they took it away before Laura got here, but it's not working, in my view.
You just
Yeah,
submitted
you
this.
have to do it, so I
I
don't see,
had it-
right, I mean, it's mandated, so.
Yeah, I think about 3 weeks ago now, John. It was mandated to be back right the Monday after Thanksgiving.
Do you guys have a calendar? Because in years past, there's always been a budget.
Yeah, I do. It's like they start reviewing it now till January, and then Finance Committee, it's that January, February time period where your opportunity would come up to, if the board so wishes, to meet with Finance.
And I only want to bring it up because you brought it up earlier, just a couple minutes ago, with the holidays coming up and some
Yep.
absences.
Yep.
This board's gonna need a point person on this subject and other potential subjects.
I agree.
So I think we need to discuss that because.
I'd suggest highly, as I was going to get to that,
Okay,
saying,
okay.
I would suggest to this board to be proactive in the month of January, and maybe have a point person.
Yeah.
But that's your, board's decision. And we're not meeting until when?
To be determined, right?
Yeah,
Madam Chair?
yeah, so, but that would be ideal, and I remember, and I think communication, I have no problem with communication, I think communication is important. The whole board went to the Finance Committee last time we
Well,
went.
I would suggest that we do that as well. too.
Absolutely.
But with the holidays coming and
Yeah,
budgetary coming and other things, there's going to be a need, so the information still funnels.
yeah.
Because it's too important of a time and too important time of
I
the year
agree.
that we don't.
And I combine, just so you know, the
Right.
list is done, I combine the on-call. If we don't get the full-time person, I still need on-call coverage.
Right,
The day I had to spend the whole day it really came to light when I had to spend the whole day in my timeshare condo on the Cape when everyone down on the beach was asking, where's Mark, where's Mark? But West Nile, and again, that's how serious I take my job. West Nile virus hit and the mosquito was enough to pull me away, but I had no one to help me. I was calling agents from Milford and other towns to help assist, but they can only help assist on who to contact to get information, because I didn't have anything on my desk, because I didn't have a desk down the Cape. So, Laura was very beneficial, and this town staff helped with the reverse call, but it took a lot of work to try to do it outside of the office. I wish I could have called the other person, and the other agent, and said, listen, you do
Right.
this, do that, and give me a call. I definitely would still be around, but it would have handled that. And that's been, as the board knows, this isn't the first instant either, John. We need
100 times.
on-call
100
coverage at
times in the
minimum.
last 2 or 3 years, it's been
Yeah.
an issue.
They are
When
working.
when we had the Mercuries,
Yes, that was this
Right.
February or March. It was around that time period. Thank you.
and people don't realize that, we had hazmat out here and it was an all-day event. It was,
Right. For
all
a thermometer.
for a thermometer.
yeah, thermometer.
I will give, HR is trying to do something this week. We'll see what happens, but it's very close to, I'll go over it with the board. Maybe that will be a helpful situation for next year's budget too, and maybe for the rest of the,
But even if there is a solution there, there still needs to be where the communication flows.
so that's the budget in a nutshell. I don't know if the board wants to vote on this and say this is suggested, you don't have to confirm, but it's what went to them, and it's up to you if you wanna vote this, or just look at it in another meeting and say, no, we'd like to do this
I think
change.
it's a good conversation piece to
Yeah,
take to finance.
absolutely.
Okay, okay.
I don't wanna pigeonhole.
Commit to it, then, yeah, no, because there could be something else that comes
Right.
up, I agree.
Okay.
Plus, I think we gotta get some answers on the landfill still.
Mayor, when could some of these actually take effect if it goes as planned? If, let's say it's just even the on-call coverage, is that after the next?
It would start in June.
It wouldn't
June,
start till
July
next-
It would start July
July
1.
1 with the
July
new,
1 of 18.
the new fiscal year.
Okay.
So there are issues right now, but this is for FY 19.
Right.
It's hard to say 19, I can't believe I'm in the word
I know.
19.
So
Yeah,
we
Julie,
need to
wow.
set up a next meeting. And our normal meeting would be next week to stay on our original cycle. I don't know if there's anything that we would have to really do next
No,
week.
but as
Or we-
always, I'll let the board know if there's an emergency.
Well, we would then have-
Or Laura will,
The next week after that would be,
the holidays.
January 2nd.
Oh, wow, the weeks are flying. You're right,
Yeah.
because next week is, then the Christmas week is the week after. So the 18th to the 23rd is next week. The week after that's the 25th to the 29th.
Right, but we would normally meet on the 19th.
That's correct, Mary.
So
That
if
is,
we
I see what
skip
you're getting
that,
at. Yeah, then you would be
Right,
meeting
'cause
on
we're all
January
scheduled,
2nd and
right.
16th,
Right,
which is the day after New Year's Day.
Well,
I
It's
know.
up to the board.
we've got a couple things
Cooking.
to cook, to look at,
I mean, I would say January 2nd is probably,
I was gonna say, I wouldn't think we need anything before January 2nd.
right,
And then the other dominoes will all fall into place by then as
Yeah,
well.
I'll get you, and then you'll go from there.
You know, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
and the reason you meet the first and third is, zoning meets the
Right.
second and fourth.
right.
Because we try to get that room, but today we got trumped by another bigger room.
This works out kinda nice.
This is a nice room.
This is nice.
I like this one. I thought it was not as
The one
wide.
across the hall is smaller.
Yeah, I didn't know this was so nice. The only thing is that picture's driving me nuts over there.
Yeah.
The one that's all,
The blurry
I'm
one?
like, is that my eyeglasses?
I did the exact same thing too, I'm like, what's going on here?
Okay,
It gets you to look at it though.
So we'll set a meeting up for January 2nd,
Okay.
and
Okay.
hopefully that will be in the selectmen's room with WACA.
Do you want me to quickly go? Do you have a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Landfill status update, pretty much if you drive by, they got the new fence up, they got the vent stacks up, so the berm's in, and we're just hoping, I talked to Jen yesterday, the assistant town man, now we'll see if those vents will hopefully pull some of that gas up into the atmosphere. We'll wait and see, but the berm's in place without the vegetation. Vegetation's planned for next spring when it'll be the appropriate growing season. A lot of things got tied up with the permeation, other things, contracts and so forth. Food establishment updates. Eden's, they're the new replacement for the donut shop that's down at the XL gas station.
Okay,
We had 2 months only the donut shop was there, and then it stayed quiet. But across the hallway, I just saw, is it on the agenda? No, it's not, but it's all in the same building. Can I bring it up that there was a closure of they just left the other place.
the pizza place?
Yeah, they just left.
Yeah.
So that place has been vacant off and on. Murphy's Eatin' Treats, I'm not telling you when they're opening because they're not telling me.
To be
Fusion
determined.
Cuisine is closed with a padlock on the door. I was down here today. Boston Border Up or whatever has signs up. They boarded the windows that were broken into. I don't know if it's the state that forced the closure of that building for investigative purposes or due to the fire, arson, they believe. So with that said, I'm at loss. No one's communicating with me, but we know it's locked up, and no one should be operating until further notice, but.
It's
I
been
think-
locked since the fire.
Well, I think there
No,
was
it hasn't.
activity down there,
No?
Mary, I think that activity was for the new signage and the padlock, and
Yeah.
probably, I don't know what they did inside. They probably cleaned it out, 'cause
I only saw it because I was coming by and thinking, oh, maybe they're gonna open again, because there
Right.
was like 6 cars in the side parking lot.
Oh, really?
yeah, I think there's something going on there, and it could be an investigation of some type. I wish I knew more, but the manager hasn't returned my call. I don't know if he's long gone to the manager that was running it. His name was Johnny.
Yeah.
He hasn't called back, so something's up. What? We don't know. I went to a really good conference on lead in drinking water. Now, that's been almost 2 months ago, but what it was is that how towns handle what we did when we had Patty here from the head of facilities, where we did an overview of all the taps in the schools and found
Yeah.
that some of the older taps had lead in it, and they resolved that by shutting them down or replacing them. And that program continues and will continue through the years in all the schools in Massachusetts, and the state is here to help. So, and they did a great job with presentations, so it was but there was a big grant to do all this, and that's the problem. That grant went away now. All that money's gone, so now it's up to the towns. That was only seed money, so. Potential development, 98 Main Street. That's right around the corner here at near the the bank on the Sunnyside side, and it's been back and forth, and as more information comes in, the building is gonna be a office slash restaurant, almost like 21 Main Street, where they'll have apartments above, but a lot bigger. If you look at the one down at the South Road train station, that one over to the side and the lights, that height,
Right.
so forth, the 3 floors.
Has that been permitted?
No, it's under review.
under
It's under review, and the reason is, you know, there's always and they're having major meetings today on downtown, but they want to attract businesses, and they're working very hard at that, but it's sometimes the parking comes up, you know, that's gonna be a lot of units where they're
Cemetery.
gonna park. The cemetery came up too, there's a right of way, so there's a few things that need to be reviewed. So as I get more information, I'll update the board. I have limited, just a couple of things on it, but as it comes in with further info, I'll update the board on it.
Good project if it gets permitted.
Yeah. And, oh my God, this was something I put down, proposed 4-bedroom dwelling. I apologize to the board. I don't know what that, oh, wait a minute.
I think it's the wrong line.
120,
Yeah.
I'm doing two things in my
Right.
mind here.
98 is what?
Forget about 98 being what I was just, 98 is 126 Main
Right.
Street that I was just discussing. 98's right across from Town Hall, the yellow house.
Yellow house, yeah.
Yeah, that one they're proposing 4 units, but they may only be able to get 3 units renovated because of the problem with parking.
Right.
I apologize. You know what? I transferred this agenda from December 5th, which I created before Thanksgiving.
I knew what you were
So, but that's what I was trying to get
You're
through.
forgiven.
And I talked about something that's not on the
It's
agenda.
the
I
yellow house
apologize.
across from
Yep.
Town Hall, or it used to be yellow, I don't know what color it is.
And then this one's Hilldale, and this one here is the next item, and the project there is just, they wanted to level their yard off, and now they're catching up on what they should have done before they leveled their yard offs in the back 2 of the homes. So they're working with the various agencies related to flattening the ground and the fill material. It was really nothing major, but I wanted you to know in case the board sees it in other meetings or whatever, and just so you know it was there. So that's pretty much it.
It's nice that we get these updates.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Mark, since you've shown up,
Oh, hi,
do
Mark.
you, we skipped over citizens' participation because you disappointed us.
I was actually worried about you.
I knew he wasn't gonna
Mike, you
be
can
here.
turn that around if you want, or you can sit at the table if you'd like, you know. It's up to
Whatever.
you, it's your choice.
Let me just stand up so I can just get the body to stretch out again. I was over at Town Hall, they had the town revitalization meeting.
Is it well attended?
Decently well attended.
Good.
It lasted shorter than what they wanted to have. Less questions, better off.
There you go.
Okay, so, good evening.
Good evening,
Good
Mark.
evening, Mark.
Appreciate the board giving me the chance at the end of the night hearing and everything, and, Mayor Phil, thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you. That was a citizen's request. You said email one time? Email things about a month ago, I asked, can citizens, send out requests to the board? And that was one of them I sent through the, email to the chairman, and she responded. Now, why can't it be this quiet and serene all night long, all the time? Appreciate the ideas, appreciate minutes being updated. Town is getting better off. And I know you all wanna go home before it gets too cold.
The roads are gonna get dangerous, so everyone be careful
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah, well, that's gonna go down to the 20s and then,
Yeah, those roads are gonna freeze.
Yep.
Be careful, be careful.
oh, sure, you take away my road prices, okay.
Sorry, Mark, maybe I just gave you a little hint. You don't wanna brought it up.
Okay, that'd be my citizens report for tonight. Be careful driving, and the board, have a good night and good holidays. And health-wise, my doctors are good with me, so I'm good with everything else.
Keep losing
Thank
that
you,
weight.
Mark.
Keep
Thanks,
losing
Mark.
that weight, Mark.
Yeah.
Very
Good,
good.
You have good holidays too.
I went down from 9 to 6 in the A1C.
Good.
That's
Good.
Keep up the
awesome.
good work.
That's a A+.
Yeah, that is an A+.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before we do we wanna take any action on what we talked about
Oh,
before?
yes.
I just think it's too important that we don't.
Setting up a point person
Oh, yeah.
while you were on leave?
Yeah.
How would you wanna handle
Well,
it?
just so you know, HR is looking at trying to get someone in here, but there was discussion with them through emails, and, that you and John have been, before you were here, Ron, have been knowledgeable enough to know what I do. Mary, you've been here as long as I have, I think. As the eyes, obviously, the worst thing is liability to you, and that's why what has been done in the past, this is for Ron's knowledge, is that, if I was away in Maine, I remember I was in Maine once, or the Mercury spill was the most recent one, they would go out and be my eyes as assistants if I was away, and I'd try to intervene through phone calls. And until I could get there, if I couldn't get there, when I was in Mexico, I had to use a separate plan, so, I did suggest that nothing against any of the other board members. This is just that John and Mary have had that experience before, and to just be the eyes and know when to say, okay, this is past us and we gotta call the state, or we gotta call Mark, or, so you don't run into having a liable situation. But HR felt that, in their words, that it would be best not to have any of the board members, so there'd be no concern between each board member, why them, not me. That is all I can relate to this board.
I
I'm
don't
not
think
gonna
that
say.
would be an issue with us.
I just
at
think
all.
I don't think it would be.
We just
I
have to
don't-
funnel it's not an authority thing, it's a
Yeah,
funneling
with-
of information
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I understand. I just want you to know that was the message that I received.
I think the majority of this board understands the magnitude and what needs to be done. It's not a power ranking or an authority issue.
Not
It's
anymore.
it's in the best interest of the people of Ashland.
Yep.
So. Anybody have any thoughts?
Anybody want to volunteer?
Well, only because I can be available during business hours during the next couple weeks. I will throw my hat. I'm not saying that, but, so
Nope, I'm okay with that. I mean, if it's okay with everybody.
I can
with
pass the
Mayor.
information, but,
Yeah.
When John isn't, I am, so I
Right.
mean,
Cool.
I don't see that
Yeah.
that's a problem. We
think
just
that's
need to
great.
make it known to the blue and red teams,
right.
so
Then
they,
I was gonna ask Mark, based on the decision that we make here tonight, that you pass that along.
Yeah, and I will, the other thing too is I'll pass along to you if HR decides to
Yeah.
have anyone in here, if they do, Laura and I just experienced a panic mode from someone that's trying to get a septic system in, and unfortunately, I'm taking a leave, and it's very soon. And
Yeah.
I'll talk to the board after we're done with the meeting.
But that's why I
Well,
think,
I
that
leave.
a person from Ashland should then touch that person and say, hey, listen,
Yeah.
here's what the situation is, let me explain it to you, let me go
And
over
see,
it."
now that one with the
Like-
septic needs a registered sanitarian,
Well,
a
that's-
PE and all that, and so that's where that person can come in handy, but they should be addressing it to the point
But,
person.
but also a public official in the town can explain the situation,
Yep, exactly.
what's going
Yep,
on.
Yep, yep,
make some recommendations,
yep.
you know what I'm saying?
And what I would suggest is, I'll work with the chair if the board so wishes to send that response to
Yeah.
management, that, with the chair signing off, that this is how we're doing it as it relates to Board of Health work,
We've just
Yeah,
got
that's
some
fine.
good momentum going here, let's not
Yeah.
screw it
Right.
up.
Yep, so if that's okay though, if I could have the chair.
Absolutely.
it's fine.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So did we finalize it, or?
Yes, he's going to,
Mary and I
send,
work on the letter, your main point person, Mary will cover
I
when
think
you
we should
can.
probably vote on it, so then by.
okay,
Yeah. just-
make a motion that John be the point person with myself as a backup,
Good.
during Mark's leave.
That's great, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Alright,
And if
There you
there's
go.
anything I can do to help, I'm not far either, then,
Well, I
I
think-
mean,
I think-
I don't want to
that-
leave it on both of you to have to do everything.
No,
if
and
there's
I think
anything
that
can
we,
do.
with the new energy here, I think we do that, we get back to operating as a board.
Absolutely.
Just
Yeah,
because
but
there's a point person
I
doesn't mean that
pray
we're,
there's not
that
anything,
we're
but
not a board.
I agree, but if there is something, if
Right.
one's not, two of you can go do things together. Wouldn't be bad for Ron to see a few things
Well,
too.
and I was actually gonna make that suggestion
Right.
as we go, because, in my mind, my opinion, you're gonna be the future chairman of this board, so it'd be good that you, get to be involved in some of these types of activities, so, pick up the phone and call you, and if God forbid something happens,
Yeah, I'd love to know more about how it works. I know when you say that we don't know all the stuff you do. I think, you know, I just look at your reports and you can tell all the things you do.
It's quite a bit.
That's, you know, no.
And then other
But
stuff
thank
that we
you for
don't
looking
even
at
see.
those
And other
reports.
stuff we don't even see, yeah.
Right, exactly, besides all the other stuff.
Okay, it's 9
It's-
o'clock.
It's been our last meeting of the year, and what a year it's been. But, progress. I wanna say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody, more importantly, you know, good health to everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. You as
Same to
well.
you, John.
Yeah.
Same to you.
Thanks, everybody.
And 18 can only be better.
Yeah, right.
It's gotta be. We can't get much lower.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, I think we ended on a good note.
So motion to adjourn?
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you and good night.